Steven, let's move on now to the prospect report. And this is a player that I haven't heard much about for a while. So I am legitimately curious to hear what you have to say about his progress.
Yeah, so you look at Marco Casper's numbers this year in the AHL Grand Rapids, 22 points in 42 games. So nothing spectacular by any means. There's other guys that are, 19, 20 years old that are producing more, but he's playing some of his best hockey recently. Look at just in the last couple games, he's got back-to-back points against the Manitoba Moose. He had a 3-point game against the Moose earlier. He had a 2-point game against, you guessed it, the Manitoba Moose the night before that. So he seems to get a lot of points specifically against Manitoba. So watch out, Winnipeg Jets. But and just in general, watching him play a couple games with the Grand Rapids Griffins, I've really liked what I've seen from him there. He's really buzzing around the ice. He's hitting guys. He's kind of just doing everything. He's been a really good two-way forward. And, for a 19-year-old to come to the AHL and produce like he is, there's very few 19-year-olds in the league because, of course, no players in the CHL are eligible to play at that age. But for someone who played the last 2 years in Sweden, where it was more of like a middle six role at best, he's been having to take on a bit more responsibility of Grand Rapids, and he's been able to lean on those veterans there, and he's gone to learn. But talking to scouts that have followed really closely, they're saying like this guy has become so well rounded just this year alone, especially as his confidence has kind of grown. So the Detroit Red Wings don't have a ton of top forward prospect talent there. Kasper is the best. He was a first round pick in 2022, and I still think it was a great pickup for them. But I'm not expecting, tons of flashy points. I'm not expecting, him to go get 70, 80 points a year, but I think he's a guy that should be able to get 50 points a year, who can continue to get better physically and block shots. He kind of does a lot of that. So in terms of that, there's other value you can get out of him outside of the score sheet. And then for the Red Wings, obviously, it's a team that's going to be on the rise at some point here. And if they don't trade him at the deadline, if they're going to try to get a major piece right away, maybe they do. He is intriguing that way. I don't think that's the right move. I think they'll keep him. I think he'll be a valuable piece of the Red Wings going forward. And I'm not sure if he's the number one center, most likely number two, but that's a pretty good number two.
Yeah, it's interesting with Marco Casper because I look at what I worry about with the Wings is that Steve Yzerman got aggressive, started adding veterans too early before they get to finish really low and draft that like franchise center. I think that Marco Casper, like you said, he could be one of those really good, middle six or maybe even top six centers. But I think his ceiling might be, a player like Bo Horvat or Nico Hischier, those two-way forwards who maybe at their absolute peak they flirt with the point of game, but they're more known for all-around play. Not like I don't think it's Marco Casper winning scoring titles down the road, right? So that's the worry for me with Detroit. I just don't think they have one of those players in the system at all. So we'll see what
And
happens. But
yeah, I will point out that like this is not the year that they should have been going for like a high playoff position. This is something where they should have tried to see if they can take advantage of the fact that so many teams are looking for a defenseman and maybe picked up a Berkeley Catton, maybe picked up Igor Chernyshov out of Russia or Tija Ginla and try to make a move like that. I think this year they've kind of played themselves out of that territory. They might still get a guy at like 19th or 20th, depending obviously where they finish in the regular season, but I just feel like they rushed this a little too early. Like the Yzer plan's been in effect for a while, but I just don't think they were ready. And they should have been bad for one more year to try to get them some scoring help. And I don't think they did that.